My daughter's fiancé demanded $50,000 or no wedding. I froze his account at MY Bank instead. My daughter's fiancé demanded $50,000 for the wedding or no wedding at all. My name is Anthony Romano, and what Preston Whitfield Ford didn't know was that his family's $4.2 million mansion was mortgaged through my bank. You see, Preston thought he was bullying some poor pizza shop owner. What he got instead was a foreclosure notice on his front door less than 24 hours later. Sometimes, the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. I stayed silent through his entire racist rant. I nodded politely when he threatened to cancel my daughter's wedding. And in that moment, I made a quiet decision that would destroy his world. If this story sounds familiar, maybe you've dealt with entitled people who think money makes them untouchable. Stick around, because you're going to want to hear how this one ends. It all began 8 months ago when my daughter Anna brought home her fiancé. From a moment he stepped out of his BMW, I saw the disappointment in his eyes. He looked around our neighborhood, small row houses, tiny lawns, working families, and it was written all over his face. We weren't his kind of people. I was wearing my usual Saturday outfit, old jeans and a worn Providence College t-shirt. My 1995 Honda Civic, with more miles than I cared to admit, sat in the driveway beside his spotless car. "So, you're Anna's father," Preston said, offering me a manicured hand. His Hermes belt probably cost more than most people made in a week. "Anna tells me you work in finance?" he asked, with that polite tone rich people use when they're deciding how superior to feel. "I work at a bank," I replied casually. Anna jumped in quickly. "Dad's being modest. He's been with the same company for 25 years. What she didn't know was that I own that company. Preston gave me the kind of smile rich people reserve for service workers. Polite, distant, dismissive. He glanced around our modest living room. The worn furniture, the family photos, the framed picture of Anna's Stanford graduation. "Stanford," he said, eyeing her diploma. "Impressive. Must have been quite an investment for your family." The way he said investment made it sound like he was imagining the loans we must have taken, the sacrifices we'd made. He had no idea that I paid every dollar of Anna's tuition. 4 years, $320,000, in full, without touching a cent of my real assets. "Anna worked very hard," I said evenly. "Of course," he replied with a smirk. "Merit scholarships help a lot, don't they?" Anna froze. She'd never told him about any scholarships, because there weren't any. She believed I'd taken out loans, that I'd scraped by to make it happen. She had no idea that Romano Financial made more in an hour than her tuition cost in a year. "Dad," Anna said softly, trying to ease the tension, "Preston's family is hosting an engagement party next month at the yacht club." "The Newport Country Club," Preston added proudly. "Been in my family for 4 generations. He was marking territory. Old money versus what he assumed was working class. "That sounds wonderful," I said with a calm smile. "It will be," he replied. "Though I have to be honest, Mr. Romano, Anna and I have been discussing the wedding venue, and we have concerns." "Here it comes," I thought. Anna showed me the reception hall you suggested. "Russo's on Federal Hill," he said, pronouncing it like it was beneath him. "I'm sure it's fine for some events, but our guest list includes my law partners, family, business associates, people who expect a certain standard." Anna's face flushed with embarrassment. "Preston, we talked about this," she whispered. "I know, sweetheart," he said gently, "and I want to make this work. But we have to be realistic about what kind of wedding represents both our families appropriately." Both our families. What he really meant was his family. Ours was just along for the ride. I stayed quiet, but inside something shifted. For 15 years, I'd built Romano Financial from a small loan office to 80 branches across New England, all quietly, all under the radar. Anna believed I was just another bank employee because I wanted her to build her own life, her own success, not live in the shadow of my wealth. But watching this entitled boy dismiss my daughter's happiness for the sake of his status, that was testing my patience. "What did you have in mind?" I asked. Preston's face lit up like a salesman about to close a deal. "There's a beautiful venue in Newport, Oceanside. It's where people like us typically—" He stopped himself mid-sentence, then forced a smile. with a ceremony would be more appropriate for our combined social circles. People like us, not people like me. He had no idea what people like me were truly capable of. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my home office. Anna's voice was tight, anxious. "Dad, can you come over? Preston and I need to talk to you about something important." 20 minutes later, I was sitting in their Cambridge apartment, the one Anna thought she was renting with student loan money. In truth, I'd quietly helped her secure it years ago. Preston had been pacing. His usually perfect hair was messy, his tie loosened. "Mr. Romano," he began, trying to sound confident, "I'll be direct. Anna and I found the perfect wedding venue, the Chandler at Cliff Walk in Newport." I knew the place. Oceanside views, marble floors, chandeliers that could blind you. A minimum of $1,500 per guest. "It's beautiful," Anna said quietly. "But it's expensive." "How expensive?" I asked. Preston cleared his throat. "For the 200 guests we're planning, the total would be approximately $300,000. Anna's face went pale. I could almost see the gears turning, imagining her father's bank salary, wondering how on earth we'd afford it. "That's quite a bit," I said calmly, "which is why," Preston continued quickly, "I've been thinking about how to make this work for everyone. My family has connections at the venue. We could potentially get the cost down to, let's say, $50,000 from your side." $50,000. He said it like he was offering me a discount at a charity auction. "The thing is," he added, "we really need to decide soon. The Chandler books up years in advance. If we don't secure the date this week, we'll lose it." An ultimatum, wrapped in urgency. Anna stared down at her hands. "Dad, you don't have to—" "Actually, I do," Preston interrupted. "Anna, sweetheart, you know how important this is for both our families. My parents have already started planning. They've invited the senator, the mayor, partners from 3 law firms. This isn't just a wedding. It's a networking event that'll benefit both of us for years." "Both of us?" He meant himself. "And if we can't make it work?" I asked. For a moment, his polished mask cracked. "Then we'd have to seriously reconsider our timeline. Maybe postpone until we can find something more financially feasible." The message was clear. $50,000 or no wedding. Anna's eyes welled with tears. "Preston, you're putting my father in an impossible position." "I'm just being realistic," he replied coldly. "Anna, your father works at a community bank. He's probably making what? $60,000 a year? Asking him to contribute 50 is already generous, considering the proportional investment. $60,000 a year. If only he knew." I watched my daughter's expression crumble, caught between the man she loved and the father she thought couldn't afford to make her dream wedding happen. What she didn't know was that $50,000 was what Romano Financial earned in less than 3 hours. But money wasn't the issue. Preston had revealed something much bigger. He didn't see us as equals. He saw us as charity, people he was graciously allowing into his circle as long as we could pay the admission fee. "I need some time to think about this," I said evenly. "Of course," Preston replied, "but like I mentioned, we'll need an answer by Friday. The Chandler won't hold the date much longer." 3 days. He was giving me 3 days to come up with money he assumed I didn't have. After leaving their apartment, I sat in my old Honda Civic for a long time. Anna was miserable, torn between love and loyalty, her fiancé's pride and her father's supposed limitations. All because Preston was too arrogant to have a wedding that didn't impress his country club friends. But here's what Preston didn't understand. I'd spent 25 years in banking. I'd seen men like him 1,000 times. Men who confuse privilege for power, who think money makes them untouchable. And I'd learned one thing over the years. Information is power. That night, I called my compliance department. Nothing unusual about that. Bank presidents request account reviews all the time. By Thursday morning, I had everything I needed, a full picture of the Whitfield family's finances, Preston's trust fund, his father's business ventures, and most interesting of all, the mortgage on their family estate. A stunning 8-bedroom colonial in Newport, the same house Preston grew up in, the one they used to entertain senators and mayors. It was mortgaged through Romano Financial for $4.2 million. And hidden in that agreement were some very interesting character clauses. Friday afternoon, Right on schedule, Preston called. 5 p.m. sharp. I was sitting in my office, the same office he thought belonged to someone else. The same office where I'd just finished reviewing his family's file with my legal team. Mr. Romano, he said smoothly, I hope you've had time to consider our conversation. I have. Great. So, what's the decision on the venue contribution? I leaned back in my chair, studying the arrogance in his voice. Preston, I said slowly, I have a question first. Of course. You mentioned this wedding represents both our families. I'm curious. What do you think my family brings to this partnership? There was silence on the line. Well, Anna, obviously. She's wonderful, smart, beautiful. Beyond Anna, I said calmly. What do you think the Romano family contributes? A longer pause this time. I'm not sure I understand the question. I leaned back in my chair, letting a quiet moment stretch between us. You've made it clear that your family has connections, status, and wealth. What do you think my family brings to this partnership? There was a pause. I could almost hear him scrambling for a polite answer. Every family has their own unique strengths, he finally said. Unique strengths such as? I asked. Mr. Romano, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm trying to understand, I said calmly, why you think asking for $50,000 is reasonable from a family you clearly consider beneath yours. The silence that followed was sharp. When he spoke again, there was tension in his voice. I never said you were financially inferior. You said I probably make $60,000 a year. That was just an estimate, based on average bank employee salaries. Which bank? I asked. What? Which bank did you use for those estimates? He hesitated. It was just a general assumption. You assumed, I said evenly. You saw my car, my house, my clothes, and you made judgments about what kind of man your fiancé's father is. I could hear him shifting, his voice growing defensive. Mr. Romano, if you're upset about the arrangement, we can explore alternatives. Perhaps a smaller venue. Something more suited to everyone's budget. Something more suited to everyone's budget, I repeated quietly. Translation. Something cheaper, something more appropriate for people like us. Or, I continued, we could look at this from a different perspective. What do you mean? Tell me about your family's finances, Preston. Excuse me. You've already analyzed mine, I said. Turnabout seems fair. That's completely inappropriate. Is it? You're asking me to contribute $50,000 to a wedding that primarily benefits your social image. Shouldn't I know if your family can afford their share? His voice rose. My family has been in Newport for 4 generations. That's not what I asked. We own property. Mortgaged property, I replied. That weekend, Anna invited me to lunch at a small cafe near Harvard Square. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, her usual spark dimmed. Dad, she began softly, about the wedding in Preston. Anna, you don't have to explain anything. But I do. She stirred her coffee absently, not meeting my eyes. He's not usually like this. The pressure from his family is intense. They have expectations about appearances and status. I'm still trying to navigate it. Navigate it? I asked gently, like you're the one who needs to change. She hesitated. His mother asked me last week what you do for work. When I said banking, she asked which firm. Her voice trailed off. I didn't respond right away. I was too busy thinking about how blind my daughter was to what was really happening, how the people she was marrying into were measuring her worth not by her heart, but by her father's income. And soon enough, they were going to see exactly who they had underestimated. When I told her I worked in community banking, Anna trailed off. She gave me this look. What kind of look? I asked, like she was disappointed, but trying not to show it. I took a sip of my coffee and said nothing. And Preston's father, Anna continued, he keeps making these comments about how much he respects self-made people and families who've worked their way up. But the way he says it, it's like he's patting us on the head for trying so hard. How does that make you feel? I asked quietly. She hesitated. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if I even belong in that world. She sighed. Last month, Preston took me to a dinner party at his parents' house. Everyone was talking about their vacation homes, private schools, and charity galas. When someone asked what I did, I told them I was finishing my MBA at Stanford. This woman, she was a judge's wife, I think, smiled and said, *, how wonderful that you're getting an education. That must be such a priority for families like yours. Asterisk. Families like yours, I repeated slowly. How generous of her. The condescension was obvious, Anna said. But I didn't say anything. I just smiled and changed the subject. Later, Preston said I'd handled it well, like I'd passed some sort of test. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Maria, my sister and VP of Operations at Romano Financial. Asterisk compliance completed the Whitfield review. Character violations documented. Emergency board meeting Monday. You want me to prepare foreclosure paperwork? Asterisk. I typed back. Asterisk yes. And prepare the trust fund freeze documentation too. Asterisk. Anna noticed me checking my phone. Sorry, Dad. Work emergency. Something like that, I said, slipping the phone away. Anna, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? She paused for a long moment, staring into her coffee. I love Preston. I really do. But sometimes, I feel like I'm auditioning for a role in his life instead of just living my own. What would happen if you stopped auditioning? She frowned. What do you mean? What if you just showed up as yourself? Anna Romano from Federal Hill. The girl whose dad works at a bank and drives an old Honda. What if you stopped trying to become what they want you to be? She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know if Preston would still want to marry me. The honesty in her words broke my heart and sealed my resolve. My phone rang again. The caller ID read Romano, Financial Legal Department. I should take this, I said softly. Give me 1 second. This is Tony. Mr. Romano, said the attorney, we've completed the documents. The Whitfield mortgage includes multiple character violation clauses. You have legal grounds for immediate acceleration. Should we proceed? Yes, I said after a moment. Schedule it for Monday morning. Full legal review. Should we notify the account holders? I looked across the table at my daughter, still stirring her coffee, still wondering if she was good enough for people who didn't deserve her. Not yet, I said. I'll handle that personally. When I hung up, I smiled at her. Sorry about that. No problem. Banking emergencies, right? If only she knew what kind of banking emergency this was going to be. Anna, I said gently, you never have to apologize for who you are or where you come from. Anyone who can't see your worth doesn't deserve you. She smiled sadly. Thanks, Dad. I just wish it were that simple. It was about to be. A few days later, a cream-colored envelope arrived. The Whitfield family cordially invites you to celebrate the engagement of Preston Whitfield IV and Anna Romano. Astor's cocktails and dinner at the Newport Country Club. Saturday, April 20th, 7:30 p.m. Jacket required. Asterisk. Anna called me, her voice full of both excitement and nerves. Dad, Preston's parents want to meet you properly. His mom said it's important for the families to get acquainted before we start serious wedding planning. Before they approve us, I thought. I'll be there, I said. Great. And, maybe wear your Navy suit. The one for my graduation? Even Anna was worried about appearances. Saturday evening, I drove my old Honda to Newport. I passed the Whitfield estate, the same one mortgaged through Romano Financial, and pulled into the yacht club's valet circle. The attendant looked at my car like it was contagious, but took the keys anyway. Inside, the club was exactly what I expected. Dark mahogany walls, brass fixtures, oil portraits of men who'd inherited more than they'd ever earned. I spotted Anna and Preston at the bar, surrounded by a crowd of well-dressed people. Preston's blazer probably cost more than most people's rent. Anna looked stunning in a simple black dress, but her shoulders were tense. Dad, she said, waving me over. Everyone, this is my father, Anthony Romano. Preston's father, Reginald Whitfield III, stepped forward. A tall, silver-haired man with a handshake designed to test strength. His wife, Catherine, looked me up and down like she was appraising a piece of furniture she didn't intend to buy. Mr. Romano, Reginald said smoothly. Preston tells me you're in banking. That's right. Which institution? Romano Financial, I replied. I'm not familiar, he said, feigning curiosity. Local credit union? Something like that, I said, smiling. How lovely that you could take time off for this, Catherine added sweetly. Banking hours must be so restrictive. Before I could answer, one of Preston's law school friends chimed in. Wait, Romano Financial? Isn't that the place next to the pizza shop on Federal Hill? Laughter rippled through the group. Banking in ethnic neighborhoods, another added. Must be colorful clientele. Anna's cheeks turned red. Dad's been with the same company for 25 years, she said quickly. Loyalty is admirable, Reginald interrupted. Though I imagine advancement opportunities in community banking are limited. Preston put an arm around Anna. Mr. Romano's done well for himself. Anna managed to get through Stanford, after all. Managed like it was a miracle. Yes, Catherine said, smiling faintly. Anna mentioned scholarships were involved. Anna started to correct her, but I caught her eye and gave a small shake of my head. Let them believe whatever made them comfortable. Education has always been important in our family, I said evenly. Of course, Reginald replied. Preston told us about your resourcefulness regarding the wedding venue. $50,000 is quite a stretch for a family in your position. We appreciate the sacrifice. The sacrifice, like I was selling my blood to fund their son's image. Actually, Preston added loudly, we're still finalizing logistics. The venue we want is a significant investment for both families. One of Catherine's friends, her neck dripping with diamonds, leaned closer. The Chandler is lovely, but so expensive. Maybe you should consider something more accessible. I know a wonderful place in Cranston that does charming ethnic weddings. Ethnic weddings, my jaw tightened. The thing is, Preston continued, and his family is dealing with some financial constraints, so we're trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Laughter murmured again, quiet, polite, cruel. Perhaps, Catherine suggested, you could have a small ceremony at Anna's family church and just do cocktails afterward. So much more intimate than these lavish affairs. Anna looked mortified, her eyes glassy. Reginald smiled, as if offering comfort. You know, I remember when the Costellos married their daughter to that Portuguese fisherman. I stopped listening. My patience had reached its limit. They had no idea who they were talking to. And by Monday morning, they were going to find out exactly what happens when you mistake quiet for weakness. Sometimes simple is best, Reginald said smoothly, lifting his glass. Paper plates, but lovely flowers. That's what the Costello family did for their daughter's wedding. Beautiful ceremony at St. Mary's. Reception right there in the church hall. Paper plates. They were suggesting paper plates for my daughter's wedding. Preston chuckled. Well, we're not quite the paper plate stage yet, though Mr. Romano might need to get creative with the financing. The group laughed. They were laughing at us. My daughter's future in-laws, turning her life, her dreams, into dinner party humor. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I'd sat through the whole evening listening to their patronizing comments, mocking our background, our neighborhood, my car, our community banking. I'd watched them treat Anna like she should be grateful for their son's attention. And then Preston said the words that sealed his fate. Your immigrant family needs to learn their place in America. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. His words carried farther than he realized. I took out my phone and typed a single message to Maria. Yacht Club. Now, bring the Whitfield files, foreclosure paperwork, and 2 board members. It's time. I looked around at their smug, comfortable faces, so sure of their superiority. You know, I said quietly, you're absolutely right about one thing. Reginald raised an eyebrow. And what's that? $50,000 is a lot of money. I paused, especially when you're about to lose $4.2 million. The laughter died instantly. The silence that followed was sharp and heavy. Reginald blinked. I'm sorry, what did you just say? Anna frowned. Dad, what's going on? Before I could answer, Maria entered the room, calm, confident, professional. 2 men in suits followed her. She carried a leather portfolio that every banker in New England would recognize instantly. Mr. Romano, she said, the emergency board meeting is complete. We have your authorization for the Whitfield account action. Reginald's face went pale. Whitfield account. Maria smiled politely. Yes, sir. Reginald Whitfield, correct? I'm Maria Romano, Vice President of Operations at Romano Financial. We've handled your family's mortgage for the past 8 years. Catherine's jeweled hand began to tremble, her bracelet clinking against her wine glass. There must be some mistake. No mistake, said one of the men beside Maria. James Patterson, chairman of Romano Financial's board of directors. Mr. Romano's decision has been approved. The Whitfield mortgage shows clear character clause violations. Grounds for immediate acceleration. Preston looked around, confused. Wait, Mr. Romano, you said you work at Romano Financial, not for... I met his eyes. I don't work there, Preston. I smiled faintly. I own it. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the soft clinking of glasses 3 tables away. Anna stared at me, stunned. Dad, what? Maria continued, opening the portfolio. Romano Financial Group. 80 branches across New England. Assets over $2 billion. Founded 26 years ago by Mr. Anthony Romano, starting with a $10,000 loan. Built from the ground up. She handed me a document. The Whitfield Estate Mortgage, $4.2 million, originated in 2019. Currently in violation of character clauses due to discriminatory behavior documented this evening. Preston's face turned ghost white. Character clauses, the chairman added, are standard in all Romano financial contracts. Borrowers agree to maintain community standards aligned with the bank's values. Discrimination based on national origin or economic status constitutes a breach. Reginald tried to speak, but his voice was cracking. You can't foreclose because of a social conversation. Actually, Maria said coolly, Mr. Romano has full discretionary authority over lending decisions. Given tonight's documented remarks about ethnic neighborhoods, families like yours, paper plates for ethnic weddings, and your son's statement about immigrant families learning their place, the board considers this a clear violation of community standards. The woman in diamonds, the one who joked about ethnic weddings, looked ready to faint. And furthermore, Maria continued, our review found that Mr. Preston Whitfield's trust fund, valued at approximately $600,000, is also managed through Romano Financial's private banking division. Preston choked. Which brings us, the chairman said, to a compliance issue. Trust fund management requires a character verification process. Mr. Whitfield's behavior tonight raises serious doubts about his eligibility. Anna looked at me, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief, and something else, pride. Dad, she whispered, is this real? Are you really? Anna, I said softly, your Stanford tuition, 4 years, $320,000, was paid in full. No loans. The reason I drive an old Honda isn't because I have to. It's because I want to. I don't need a new car to know who I am. Catherine finally found her voice. You've been lying to us all this time. I shook my head. I never lied. You assumed I was poor because I dressed simply. You assumed I was beneath you because I come from Federal Hill. You assumed my family was small because my parents were immigrants. But you were wrong. Preston's voice trembled. Then why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see who you really were, I said evenly. I wanted to know if you'd love my daughter for who she is or for what you thought she could become. I looked around the room, meeting every eye. Instead, I watched you treat her like charity. I heard you laugh about our neighborhood. I heard you mock our culture, our values, our pride. And tonight, I listened to you say my immigrant family needs to learn our place in America. I stepped closer to Reginald. So let me return the favor and teach you yours. Mr. Romano, if there's been a misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding. I cut him off. My voice was calm but firm. You show me exactly who you are, all of you. Now I'm showing you who I am. Maria stepped forward and handed me another document. Loan acceleration notice, she said. 24 hours to remit full payment. $4.2 million. Due Monday at 5 p.m. Legal grounds. Character clause violations, documented by bank officers present this evening. Catherine's voice cracked. You can't do this. Mrs. Whitfield, the board chairman replied evenly. Your family signed a mortgage agreement. The character clauses are explicitly defined. Tonight, your son's behavior, demanding money from families he deems inferior, mocking ethnic communities, and treating potential in-laws with disdain, violates multiple provisions. Preston turned to Anna, panic rising in his voice. Anna, you can't let him do this. We're getting married. Are we? Anna asked quietly. Her voice was steady, her eyes clear. Because 5 minutes ago, you were entertaining your friends by talking about how my family couldn't afford a proper wedding. You said my immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. Just what, Preston? For the first time in 8 months, I saw the same steel in my daughter that built everything I owned. Anna, Preston pleaded, your father's overreacting. This is all a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding, Anna said, her voice firm now, was thinking I had to apologize for my family to be worthy of yours. She turned to me. Dad, how long have you been planning this? Since the moment he said those words about our family, I replied. Anna nodded slowly. And the $50,000 he demanded, that's what Romano Financial makes in about 3 hours, right? She looked around the room, at all the people who had treated her like a charity case. Preston, she said softly, we're done. His face drained of color. Anna, you can't be serious. This is our engagement party. No, she said, her voice clear and unshakable. This is my education. She slipped the engagement ring off her finger, a 3-carat diamond that suddenly looked cheap, and placed it gently on the nearest table. Reginald stepped forward, desperate to salvage what little dignity remained. Mr. Romano, surely we could discuss this like reasonable businessmen. These are emotional circumstances. Emotional? I repeated. No, Mr. Whitfield. This is purely business. Your family signed a legally binding contract. That contract included character provisions, which you have now violated. The loan is due in full. Maria opened her portfolio and handed another document to the chairman. Loan acceleration notice approved by Romano Financial's board this afternoon, she said. Sheriff's Department will serve the formal papers Monday morning at 9. Catherine's face went pale. You prepared this before tonight? Standard procedure, the chairman replied calmly. When violations are confirmed through direct observation, Romano Financial acts swiftly to protect its integrity and values. Preston was already scrolling frantically through his phone. I need to call my lawyer. By all means, I said. Though you should know, our legal department has already prepared for this. We've reviewed every possible appeal, injunction, a delaying tactic. Your options are limited. Reginald snapped, his composure breaking. This is extortion. No, Maria replied calmly, her tone professional but cold. This is contract enforcement. Your son demanded $50,000 from a family he thought was beneath him. He made discriminatory remarks about ethnic communities, mocked cultural traditions, and told Mr. Romano his immigrant family needed to learn their place. Romano Financial does not tolerate clients who violate the principles we were built upon. The diamond-clad woman, Mrs. Peyton, I finally remembered her name, looked horrified. Reginald, what exactly did Preston say? Before his father could answer, Preston jumped in. I never said anything discriminatory. You said my family needed to learn our place in America, I reminded him quietly. You laughed about banking services in ethnic neighborhoods. You said Anna managed to get through Stanford, as if it were a miracle someone from our background could achieve anything. And you suggested paper plates for our wedding. Anna looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. There was no sadness in her eyes now, only disappointment. Is that true, Preston? She asked softly. You're taking this out of context, he stammered. Context, she repeated. 3 hours ago, you were joking about my family's money. You turned my father into a punchline. You humiliated the people who raised me, and you did it to impress strangers. I was just showing who you really are, she said. Maria handed me another document. Mr. Romano, there's also the matter of Mr. Whitfield's trust fund. Preston froze. What about my trust fund? $600,000, Maria said. Managed through Romano Financial's private banking division. Recent withdrawal patterns indicate potential violations of the trust's moral conduct provisions. Catherine's voice trembled. What kind of violations? Expenditures inconsistent with the trust's ethical standards, the chairman replied. Large undocumented cash withdrawals. Payments to luxury services, while demanding financial contributions from families he considers beneath him. He closed the folder with deliberate finality. Trust fund regulations prohibit using inherited assets to exploit or demean others based on perceived social or economic status. The room was silent. Every single person who'd laughed earlier was now staring at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. I looked at Preston, this man who thought he could buy respect with a ring and a name. "Consider this," I said quietly. "You wanted to teach my family its place. Tonight, you've learned yours." Preston's phone slipped from his hands and shattered against the marble floor. "You're freezing my trust fund?" he stammered. "Pending character review," Maria confirmed calmly. "Standard procedure when a beneficiary's behavior raises doubts about their ability to manage inherited wealth responsibly." The room fell silent. Every conversation at the yacht club had stopped. The Whitfield family's humiliation was now everyone's entertainment. Reginald's voice broke the quiet. "How long? How long for what?" I asked. "The foreclosure process," he said, his tone hollow. "How long do we have?" 24 hours, Maria replied. "You must produce $4.2 million in certified funds by tomorrow. After that, foreclosure proceedings begin immediately." Catherine's voice cracked. "That's impossible. We don't have that kind of liquid capital." I looked around the room at the so-called friends who had spent the night mocking my family. "Maybe you could ask your friends here for a loan," I suggested. "I'm sure they'd love to help, since they've enjoyed discussing our financial situation so much tonight." The looks that passed between them made the truth clear. They were spectators, not allies. Vultures who loved the show, but never helped the fallen. Preston made one last desperate attempt. "Mr. Romano, please. This is about Anna and me. Don't let your hurt feelings destroy our future." "My hurt feelings?" I asked quietly, almost amused. "Preston, this isn't about feelings. It's about character. You spent 8 months showing me yours. Now I'm showing you mine." Anna stepped closer to me. "Dad, what happens to their house?" "Standard foreclosure process," Maria explained. "It'll go to public auction. If it sells for more than they owe, they keep the difference. If it sells for less, they're still responsible for the rest." Reginald's face twisted in despair. "That house has been in my family for 4 generations. And my family has been in America for 1, I replied evenly. "The difference is we built something instead of just inheriting it." Preston turned to Anna, desperate. "Anna, please. We can fix this. Your father's being unreasonable." "No, Preston," she said softly but firmly. "He's being a father. Something you might understand if you ever respected the concept." She took my arm. "Dad, let's go." As we walked toward the exit, I heard Catherine's panicked voice behind us. "Reginald, call the bank president. Call someone who can fix this." I turned briefly. "Mrs. Whitfield," I said, "I am the bank president." The last thing I saw was Preston on his knees, gathering the broken pieces of his phone off the marble floor. The next morning, I was sitting in my kitchen, sipping coffee and reading the Providence Journal, when Anna knocked on my door. She looked exhausted, but there was a new kind of strength in her eyes. "Dad," she said softly, "we need to talk." We sat down in that same modest kitchen, the one that had apparently fooled an entire family of social elites. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "About Romano Financial? About the money? About everything?" I poured her a cup of coffee. "Do you remember when you were applying to colleges, and I told you you'd have to earn your way with scholarships and hard work?" "Of course," she said. "And I did. I worked my ass off." She paused, thinking. "Wait, did I?" I smiled faintly. "You worked just as hard as I said you would. You earned every grade, every achievement, every opportunity. The only difference is I paid the bills instead of letting you take loans. But why lie about it? Because I wanted you to become Anna Romano, not Anthony Romano's daughter. I wanted you to believe your success came from your own strength, not from my bank account." She was quiet for a long moment. "And Preston?" "Preston," I said, "was a test you didn't know you were taking. I needed to see if he loved you enough to respect you, no matter what he thought of our status. He failed spectacularly." Anna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. 20th call from Preston today. 15 texts. "What's he saying?" I asked. "That he's sorry, that he didn't mean it, that his family's falling apart, and he needs my help to fix it." I studied her face. "And how do you feel about that?" She thought for a moment, then said quietly, like I dodged a bullet. She looked down, her voice steady. "You know, I kept thinking about the last 8 months. Every time Preston introduced me to someone, he'd apologize for something: my car, my clothes, my career plans. He was always managing how people saw me, like I was some project he needed to polish. And now I realize the problem was never me. It was him and them. Her eyes moved around our kitchen. This house, it's not a downgrade from the Whitfield estate, is it? No, I said. It's a choice. Every decision I've made for the last 26 years has been about building something real, not just displaying wealth. Your mother and I decided long ago, family matters more than status. Anna smiled for the first time in weeks. Mom would have loved last night, wouldn't she? Watching you take down those snobs. I chuckled. Your mother would have done it herself, and with more flair. Just then, my phone rang. It was Maria. Tony, you need to see the news. I turned on the TV. Channel 10 News was running a story live from the Whitfield estate. The camera panned across the mansion's gates, now plastered with a bright red foreclosure notice. The Whitfield family, longtime members of Newport's social elite, are facing foreclosure following discriminatory behavior that violated their mortgage agreement with Romano Financial Group, the reporter announced. Anna's eyes widened. It's really happening. The anchor continued. Preston Whitfield IV, an associate at Peton and Associates, has reportedly been dismissed from his position following conduct deemed incompatible with the firm's professional standards. Anna turned to me. They fired him? My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Peton and Associates called this morning. They don't want any association with the situation. Also, 5 other Newport families have already requested meetings to refinance their loans through Romano Financial. I looked at Anna. Seems character still matters. Word spreads fast in small communities. I showed Anna the text on my phone. Other families want to move their accounts to Romano Financial, I said. Looks like some people actually appreciate a bank that stands by its values. The news story was still playing on TV. Romano Financial Group, founded by Italian immigrant Anthony Romano, has become one of New England's largest privately held banking institutions. Its motto, building communities, not just wealth, appears to be more than just marketing. Anna looked at me, a mix of pride and awe in her eyes. Dad, how big is Romano Financial, really? 80 branches, 2,000 employees, about $2 billion in assets. Her jaw dropped. $2 billion? You started with $10,000. And a belief, I said, smiling, that every family deserves respect, no matter where they come from or what they drive. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she answered. Hello, Preston. I could hear his voice through the speaker, desperate, pleading. Preston, stop, Anna said firmly. What happened last night wasn't a misunderstanding. You showed me who you really are when you thought there wouldn't be consequences. More begging. No, Preston, I don't want to meet for coffee. I don't want to work things out. And I definitely don't want to help you convince my father to reverse the foreclosure. She paused, her tone steady but cold. Because you spent 8 months treating my family like we should be grateful for your attention. You mocked our background, demanded money from people you thought were poor, and told my father our immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. You don't get to apologize your way out of that. Then she hung up and blocked his number. I looked at her. How does it feel? She took a deep breath. Scary, but also freeing. Like I don't have to pretend to be someone else anymore. My phone rang next. It was Judge Patricia Gonzalez, an old family friend. Tony, she said, I just heard about the Whitfields. Is Anna okay? She's fine, I told her. Better than fine. Good, Patricia said, because I've already had 4 people call me this morning asking about your character. Apparently, some folks in Newport are trying to build a case that you acted improperly. And what did you tell them? I asked. I told them exactly what I've known for 25 years. Anthony Romano keeps his word, honors his commitments, and doesn't tolerate disrespect toward his family or his community. The Whitfields got exactly what they deserved. When I hung up, Anna was watching me. What happens now, Dad? Now. I smiled. Now you get to be Anna Romano. No apologies. No explanations. Just you. The news was still playing in the background. The reporter was standing outside Romano Financial Headquarters in downtown Providence. An immigrant success story that built an empire while staying true to its values, she said. For Channel 10 News, this is Sarah Mitchell reporting. Anna reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm proud to be your daughter. 3 weeks later, Anna and I were having dinner at Russo's on Federal Hill, the same restaurant Preston once called not good enough for their wedding. When Sal Russo, the owner, heard about Anna's broken engagement, he personally came to our table. Your daughter deserves better, he said. Any man who doesn't see that isn't worth the marinara on his shoes. Anna laughed. A real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in months. The stress lines around her eyes were gone. She looked like herself again. Dad, she said between smiles, I have something to tell you. What's that? I got a call from the Italian-American Business Association. They want me to speak at their scholarship banquet next month about succeeding in business without compromising your values. That's wonderful, I said. They also mentioned a $2 million scholarship fund Romano Financial just established for first-generation college students. I smiled. Education's always been important in our family. She tilted her head, grinning. You did that because of what happened with Preston, didn't you? I did it because every kid who works as hard as you did deserves the same chance, no matter what neighborhood they come from or what their parents drive. Anna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm proud to be your daughter, not because of the money, but because of who you are. And I'm proud of the woman you've become, I said. You stood up for yourself when it mattered. That takes courage. She smiled softly. I learned from the best. My phone buzzed with a news alert. The Whitfield estate had just sold at auction that morning. A tech entrepreneur from Boston bought it for $3.8 million. After legal fees and auction costs, the Whitfields would walk away with almost nothing. I showed Anna the notification. Do you feel bad for them? She asked. I feel bad that they chose arrogance over character, I said. But I don't regret the consequences. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. She nodded. Preston called again yesterday from his parents' lawyer's office. What did he want? To apologize, she said. To say he finally understands. To ask if there's any way to fix it. And what did you tell him? I told him that realizing you were wrong isn't the same as being right, and that some mistakes can't be fixed with apologies. I smiled. She raised her wine glass. To new boundaries, she said. To new boundaries, I echoed. As we drove home through Federal Hill, past the Romano Financial Branch, past the old neighborhood where I learned that respect is worth more than money, I thought about the lesson the Whitfields would spend the rest of their lives learning. In America, you don't inherit respect. You earn it. And if you're watching this, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated because of where you come from? Because trust me, just like my family learned, the people who underestimate you will always regret it.